Hard to believe here, the Iowa caucus now 5 weeks away.
Which, with Donald Trump holding a commanding lead at this stage of the Republican race for president, speculation has already begun on who his running mate might be if he does indeed win the nomination.
News 5's John Kostick tells us there's an early talk now about an Ohio Republican in that slot.
It started with an article in Axios last week citing sources who talk often with former President Trump, who put Ohio Senator J.D. Vance on a short list of vice presidential hopefuls. Vance, who owes his 2022 election to an endorsement by Trump in last year's crowded Republican primary, has emerged as a strong supporter of the former president. Appearing on CNN, Vance was asked about vice president and didn't say no.
Any interest? Look, I was elected to be a senator for the people of Ohio. I think that's the way that I'm most effective, but I'm going to help Trump however I can because I think he was a good president. I think the American people will benefit from having him president again.
The Senate is in its final days before winter recess, and Vance was not available to talk on this day, but it is a topic I first brought up to him following his closely watched victory last year over Democrat Tim Ryan.
We're going to have a presidential election coming up in less than 2 years. Would you be open to being part of your party's ticket?
You're the first person who's asked me that, and certainly not. I think my wife would kill me, and probably a few other people as well. Look, I mean, I look at this as I just completed a very long job interview, and I got the job. And part of that job is I served 6 years to do the people's work in the state of Ohio. That's what I plan to do.
Any consideration of Vance for vice president is not without precedent. The man he replaced in the Senate, Rob Portman, was only a year and a half into his first term when he ended up on Mitt Romney's short list in 2012. 4 years later, it was the state's senior senator, Sherrod Brown, who ended up on Hillary Clinton's short list. He told me about that process in 2016.
It lasted 32 days. It was arduous. They asked a lot of questions.
A factor in those elections was the potential of Brown and Portman to sway the Ohio voters who elected them to support the ticket they'd be joining. Jacob says today geography doesn't have as much sway as ideology.
If they identify with whoever is from, let's say, Ohio, like J.D. Vance, then that would sway them. But if they don't, then...
If you're leaning one way, you're more likely to vote that way, regardless of where the candidate is from.
I think so, yeah.
A different Jacob says what may be more of a factor for voters like him is simply age. Vance turns 40 next year.
I'd say for a lot of people, absolutely. I've heard a lot of people talk about, especially the presidential ticket. You know, you got two guys over the age of 70. I don't know how relatable that is for a lot of people.
Incidentally, the last vice president to be 40 when entering office, Richard Nixon, when he was sworn in 1952. In Cleveland, John Kostick, News 5.